All right, how's everybody doing? Enjoying your freedom? Enjoying your secret garden? All right, yeah. I like the energy here. Good vibe. All right, this talk is called Unleashing the Awesome Power of Decentralization Through Self-Hosting. My name is Chris Guida, and I am a software engineer for Start9 Labs. All right, welcome to 2022. We are on the cusp of a huge and momentous shift in consciousness. These are dark times, and a lot of people are losing hope. Let me get my notes here. When I talk to strangers on the street, I see the desperation that they're feeling. This pandemic seems to drag on and on and on, and some of the higher-ups, like Anthony Fauci, say things like, "Oh, we're only 20% of the way through the pandemic," and people who watch CNN actually believe them. And even people such as yourselves who see through the mainstream narratives and they see the corruption in the media are sort of losing hope that there's a way for us to loosen the stranglehold that a lot of these, that the elites have over governments and corporations and media and the minds of the public. And getting our planet back on track is kind of an objective that seems to slip further and further from grasp year after year. So what's the source of this feeling of hopelessness? Well, firstly, people are feeling a loss of agency. We evolved as hunter-gatherers. We evolved as free, sovereign beings, running and jumping and singing and dancing and running through the plains and swinging through the trees. And the modern world feels like the walls are just closing in, and the variety of things that we're allowed to do is sort of diminishing year after year. We're also feeling a loss of community. We're feeling the loss of other human beings with which to create, connect, and play with. We're feeling a longing for simpler times, where instead of hunching over an Excel spreadsheet, we gathered around campfires and shared music and stories. And we're also feeling, finally, a loss of meaning. And what does it mean to be a human being in today's world? What does it mean to be a citizen of a city or a country? What does it mean to be you, or you, or you? Our world seems like it's not headed anywhere good. And so finding the motivation to continue pressing forward becomes increasingly difficult to summon. And so what's the cause of these ailments? Well, the problem, in short, is that we're increasingly dependent upon a system that increasingly does not give a shit about us. And so, as bad as things look, I am here to tell you that there is hope. But first, let's examine how we got here. This wasn't all our fault, but partly it was our fault. When we were kids, our parents encouraged us to become dependent on them, to lean on the social system, and basically to let them take care of things for us. And because humans are lazy and because capitalism provides a lot of abundance, many of us happily obliged. And it even seemed up until recently that the system had our best interest at heart. And so under these circumstances, it's very easy to sort of stay within our comfort zone and let other people worry about sort of the more difficult things in life. But what people didn't tell us is that the more we abdicate responsibility for ourselves, the more other people can take control of our lives. And the part that wasn't our fault is that the system is slowly becoming more psychopathic over time. And the sinister force at the root of this problem is the debasement of our money. And so a little bit more on that. So back in the days of the Medicis, people used actual gold for money. This was slowly replaced by promissory notes that were fully exchangeable for the gold, then partially exchangeable for the gold, then finally by entries at the Federal Reserve in a database somewhere that were poofed into existence by the trillions, and there's no longer any connection to gold at all. And basically, so our money is all but worthless now, and only banks are allowed to create money. And if you and I tried this, we would be charged with counterfeiting. the reason why central banking is so harmful is that it allows the people, the tiny group of people who are allowed to print the currency to steal from the poor to give to the rich. And this mechanism is called the Cantillon effect, and once you see it, it's impossible to unsee. Basically, the central bank acts as a money spigot, and where the first people to receive the money from the money spigot can spend it at its full power. And so those people have the most power in society. The next people to receive the money from those people can have a slightly lesser advantage, but they still have somewhat of an advantage. But basically, because of supply and demand, when you produce more money, you drive down the value of money. And so every time the money travels further and further from the money spigot, the signal is telling people to raise prices because the signal is saying there's more money. So people are raising their prices. So by the time the money gets all the way to the poorest members of society, the prices have all already gone up, and the poorest people are basically have their purchasing power stolen away from them. So money printing allows the elites to siphon off our wealth and reappropriate it towards their own interests. And this is usually directed towards wars. So we've had the war on poverty, the war on drugs, the war on now we apparently have a war on respiratory viruses. Never mind that none of these things can possibly be eliminated by force. But of course, possibility is not something that comes to mind when you have infinite amounts of money that you can spend. And so if we look at monetary systems as a set of gigantic games that we're all trying to win, and money is the points in the game. I know it's a little bit of a reductive system, but just bear with me here. You can separate these games into two large categories of games: the games that are based on merit and the games that are based on power. And so for the last 50 years at least, and to a lesser extent for the last few centuries, the dominant game has been a power-based game. And the game is a game I like to call the money spigot game. And the objective of the game is to get as close to the money spigot as humanly possible. And it has nothing to do with creating value for your customers, the community, or the world. There are other games, but this game has become so dominant that it's corrupted and co-opted all the other games. And it seems like if you don't play this game, that somebody who is playing this game will come along and destroy you. So almost no one wants to be playing the money spigot game. Even the people who are benefiting the most from this game, people like Warren Buffett, you hear them say, like, I don't want all this money, tax my money away. Like, they don't want to be playing this game. Like, it's a dumb game. This is a dumb game. We should not be playing this game. It's not fun. It's not fair. It's not interesting, and it visits untold destruction on the world. We need to shift the world away from power-based games to merit-based games. I wanted to add that. So this actually there actually are sort of psychopaths who are taking advantage of the mayhem, but they're few and far between. But the money spigot game does bring this out in people, and so by and large, it's mostly just people doing what benefits them the most. The game itself is psychopathic, and so this is why we need to shift the game. Okay, so let's examine closer some of the effects of this system. So basically, governments and corporations seem keen on injecting themselves into every nook and cranny of our lives. They want to control what we put in our bodies. They want to control our thoughts. They want to control our beliefs. Everywhere you look, you see large corporations abusing their positions of power, and this is because all they need to do is suck up as hard as they can to the government, and they have record profits. And this is, of course, the mechanism of the money spigot game. The money spigot has transformed large corporations into arms of the agencies that are closest to the money spigot. This would be namely Wall Street, the intelligence services, and the military-industrial complex, a group of agencies that my friend Dave likes to call GovCorp. So here are some examples of abuses. Just this is not an exhaustive list, but just to give you an idea, I'm sure you all know. So mainstream TV and newspaper tell us what to believe and how to live. They slant the news so hard that it's indistinguishable from propaganda. A lot of times they just spew misinformation, and then they don't issue an apology or even a retraction. And so, if you're getting your news from TV, I'm sure none of you are, but just out there in the world, if you're getting your news from TV, I implore you to stop. It is the worst source of information. As another example, Facebook employees who are not scientists slap misinformation labels and unfavorable fact checks on perfectly valid science. In a famous example, they actually put a misinformation label on an article from the British Journal of Medicine, which has been around since 1840, and it's well respected. Twitter does basically exactly the same thing. In January of 2021, they banned the President of the United States for glorifying violence. Meanwhile, they left a bunch of organizations who have glorified violence on Twitter, and they left those accounts active. This includes the Taliban from Afghanistan. Google may be the worst example because their power is so hard to see. Look up Robert Epstein's interview with Joe Rogan to see how his team of researchers caught Google red-handed manipulating elections through search results and search suggestions. YouTube, which is a part of Google, regularly takes down channels that they deem politically unpalatable. Amazon is famous for taking down Parler's tech infrastructure. GoFundMe recently announced that they were stealing $10 million away from a peaceful protest against the Canadian government. And finally, once they realized that they might go to court for this, they finally retracted that, and they were like, okay, we'll just refund the money. But it still ended up not going to the intended recipients. And then finally, of course, PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, banks, all of these people regularly cut people off from the financial system. See what happened to WikiLeaks in 2010. By the way, the establishment is favoring left-wing narratives right now, but that doesn't mean that it can't switch at any moment to right-wing narratives. And this would not be ideal either. Destroying your political opponents because they disagree with you is bad for society, regardless of whether it comes from the right or the left. So just keep that in mind. So the list of corporations committing terrible acts of justice in the name of the money spigot game goes on and on and on. But there's good news. It doesn't have to be this way. You can tell GovCorp to go to hell. I'd like to introduce you now to the Embassy. This is what the Embassy looks like. It's a Raspberry Pi. It's a plug-and-play personal server, sits on your shelf, and runs your digital life 24/7. When you use the Embassy properly, there is no possibility of censorship or surveillance. At Start9, we believe the Embassy is the best way for you to take back your freedom and restructure the world in a more just, decentralized, and peaceful world. Self-sovereignty is this concept where you're taking responsibility for your life and you're starting to run everything in your life yourself instead of trusting other people. This is a journey that's incrementally involves taking responsibility that you've relied on others to take care of for you. I like to see this as a process of removing training wheels from your life that other people have put on, maybe not with your best interest at heart. It can be scary to remove training wheels, but also exhilarating. And every time you remove a training wheel, you have to take on more responsibility so that you don't crash. However, the freedom that you gain from taking off the training wheels is usually so valuable that you would never even consider putting the training wheels back on. So you're constantly looking for more training wheels as you progress through your journey. You're looking for more training wheels to remove, and until one by one until you're totally free. In reality, this journey never ends because you can always be more sovereign, but you got to start somewhere. So one of the training wheels that I think we should all focus on removing is this reliance that we all have on other people's computers. And the reason why I think that this should be a priority for us is because I think it's holding us back from achieving our true potential, and it's a training wheel that we can all start removing today. Now, whether you buy an Embassy from us or whether you build one yourself for just the cost of the bare hardware, you can do either one. When you take your first step towards on this journey, you're taking more responsibility for yourself, but you're also trusting Start9 a little bit. We see ourselves as kind of like the cool older sibling that you can take advice from, or you can like hold on to our arm as you launch on your first bike ride without training wheels. But you can let go of that arm whenever you're ready. And we actually want to avoid people becoming too dependent on us, and so we've designed the Embassy from the ground up so that if anything were to happen to Start9, your freedom will not be affected. So the Embassy is 100% yours. We will not and cannot control how you use it. Nor can we see anything that you do on it, and nor can anybody else, because we designed it to be impossible to surveil. You can download, install, and run anything that you desire Currently, there are 17 apps on our marketplace, and there's many more in production, in development. We hope to inspire thousands of developers to make legions of these open source, self-sovereign apps for everyone. Basically the Google Play Store for anarchy. So let's take a closer look at what the embassy is. So first, Embassy OS is what's called source available. And this means that all of the source code on here is posted publicly online. And any organization that claims to be increasing your freedom that doesn't post their source code online, you should not take that claim seriously. Secondly, all of the services that run on the embassy are open source, and they run over Tor, which is also known as the private web. And as Tor's hidden services, all of the activity on your box is invisible to everyone except you and anybody that you choose to share access with. As I mentioned earlier, the goal is to reduce the reliance on other people's computers. So what does this mean exactly? So if you look at the apps on your smartphone, most of these apps won't do anything unless you have an internet connection. And that's because these apps don't really do anything on their own. They have to connect to, they're simply a translation mechanism between the human, which is you, and the computer, which is doing all of the work, which is called the server. And the server, importantly, is not running on your phone. It is running across the world or across the country, probably in some large corporation's data center. And this is the key to the tech giants' power over our lives. And so let's go a little bit deeper into that. So because your phone is simply a window into their computer, these large corporations, these tech giants, have a godlike control over your experience. They can do virtually anything that they want. They can completely cut off your access to the app, or they can manipulate it in ways that either are visible to you or invisible to you. So for instance, banks, as we've noted before, can shut down your account. They can freeze your money. They can set up a series of hoops that you need to jump through in order to get your money back. Facebook and Twitter, as we said, can simply delete your organization, or they can delete your entire user account along with all of the data associated with it. And they've done this regularly, as you guys know. As if this weren't bad enough, they can also, since they own your data, they can also give your data to anybody that they choose. The highest bidder, or maybe all of the bidders. And so, so they end up doing things like giving your data away to governments. Governments implement dragnet surveillance programs, and makes it very easy for them to do. Edward Snowden warned us about this. They can give your money, they can give your data away to advertisers, market researchers, and political action groups. And none of these organizations has your best interests at heart. Now, Facebook may, of course, claim that they don't sell your data to anyone. But do we really trust Facebook? On top of that, one more thing is that when you put everybody's data in one central database, which is what happens with these tech giants, you create a huge incentive for hackers to target that database and steal everyone's data. And since everybody's data is in one place, it's much easier for hackers to just get it all. Conversely, if everybody runs their own computers on their own server and they own their own data, only your data will be on your machine. And so the data is spread out across millions of devices instead of concentrated in one place. And so the incentive for hackers to attack any given database is much lower. So, all right. All right, so by simply running a server at home, you can take back your data and reclaim your sovereignty today. Instead of a window into somebody else's computer, your smartphone can be a window into your computer. And so that's what a lot of the apps that we offer on the marketplace right now can do. You can access them from your smartphone. Also, you can access from any browser. And many of the apps come with their own sort of smartphone apps that are bespoke to that app. On the embassy, you can run your very own anonymous Bitcoin and Lightning and messaging and social media apps, website hosting, password management, point of sale, crowdfunding, and more. You can vastly reduce your reliance on Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and other tech giants that can censor and surveil your online interactions. By running Bitcoin, you become your own international bank, and you circumvent banks, ACH, international wires, money transmitters such as Western Union, and yes, even the US petrodollar and the Federal Reserve itself. On top of that, Bitcoin is the soundest money ever that cannot be siphoned away by the central bankers. And so, most importantly, by holding and transacting in Bitcoin and by running your own full node, you opt out of this dangerous and destructive money spigot game. And if enough people opt out of the system, then we change the game forever. The only reason why the game exists is because the whole world is bought into it. And so, with Lightning and BTC Pay, you can become your own payment processor. You can circumvent PayPal, Venmo, and credit card companies. You can circumvent payment facilitators who report your transactions to interested parties and block your commerce. With BTC Pay, you can remove the middlemen from your point of sale transactions and crowdfunding. Nobody needs to use GoFundMe ever again. They can just use BTC Pay from their little box here. By using Mastodon, you can permanently circumvent Twitter and Facebook and become uncancelable. By running your own matrix server, we have one called Synapse. You can dodge the influence of telco providers and Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. All of these companies are centralized companies that can at least make detailed graphs of everybody who's talking to everybody else, including Signal. I know you guys feel like it's very secure, but Matrix on your embassy is much more secure than that. You can run a password manager, Vault Warden. You don't have to trust LastPass with all of your most sensitive passwords and all of your most sensitive data. You can run a file browser, which is a storage app that allows you to circumvent Dropbox and Google Drive. And Dropbox and Google Drive can inspect your files without your consent. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what's allowed, of what the embassy enables. In the future, we expect that everybody will be running totally sovereign nano businesses run on micropayments, which are facilitated through the Lightning Network. Every unit of work or computation can be done for a fraction of a Satoshi 1,000 times per minute. And this actually has the hope of turning the internet into a decentralized, into a fair, decentralized technology instead of the centralized monstrosity that it is today. So we designed, and you could do this from a slick user interface that's accessible anywhere in the world. We designed it as a cypherpunk starter kit so that anybody, including grandma, can be totally sovereign on the internet without learning how to use the command line. You will be slightly trusting Start9 unless you build using your own hardware and software, and which we encourage you to do if you like building things. But if you don't know or don't feel like putting together a Raspberry Pi and compiling the code, and you just want to take your first step to self-sovereignty, buying one of these from us is the best way. Whether you build or buy, you're taking more responsibility for your life, and as you increase your responsibility and mastery, it's a learning process. But as you go on this journey, your reliance on Start9 will go to zero. When I started this talk, I talked about a momentous shift in consciousness that we're on the cusp of. This shift is a shift away from power-based games to merit-based games, and by switching from fiat to Bitcoin and from switching from using tech giants to self-hosting, that is what we're doing. But this shift will not happen on its own. It needs us to take responsibility and create the world that we want to see through self-sovereignty. Self-sovereignty is a hero's journey. No one can be self-sovereign for you. But the more people that embark on this journey, the more just, decentralized, and peaceful the world will be. Start9 can't take this journey for you, but we can provide the best tools and knowledge that will ensure that you succeed. Embark on the journey of self-sovereignty today and set the world straight again. Thank you.
Today I'm going to show you how to use your Embassy personal server to host an anonymous, censorship-resistant website on the Tor network in under 60 seconds. Let's go. We'll start by opening up File Browser. This is where we'll upload the data for our website. This is a folder containing the HTML for the Start9 website. Now we'll go back to Embassy Pages. Here we're going to create the subdomain and tell Embassy Pages where to look for the data. So we're going to name the subdomain Embassy, and we're going to tell Pages to look in the Embassy directory within File Browser for our data. We'll save that config, and then we'll be able to find the link for our website. The link for our website can be found here in the Properties tab. We'll just wait for that tab to load. There's the link. Click on it, click copy, open a new tab, paste in the link, and wait for the website to load. Boom, 5 seconds remaining. If you'd like to learn more about self-hosting and censorship resistance, visit start9.com.